Hey, we're here. We're here. I got Scott. He's running 2 jobs, and we're jobs. Scott, hey, there's one person I know that can handle multiple things during a set, and that's Scott Garcia.
Hey, how's it going?
Scott, glad to have you. Hey, we want to bring in our sponsor, Randy Martin, over at Covenant Coffee, and it's Hope in a Cup. Because over at Covenant Coffee, they have a thing called Covenant Ministries that Covenant Coffee kind of feeds as far as a monetary side of their ministry. And they have a brick and mortar here in Bakersfield, California. I know they're getting ready to expand more. They've got housing, Scott, for the emancipated foster kids, because that's a disenfranchised group. Everybody's looking for foster kids when there's money attached to them. When they turn 18 years old, they kind of get put out, and then they become a statistic in a lot of senses. So, Randy, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for what you do in the city. So we go out, share us today, because we are live on Facebook and Instagram. So if you want to go out and catch us, and I got some exciting news coming up. We got a new show coming out from Brexit with Pierre Wilson. But Scott, you're joining in, and tell us a little bit about your show that you're going to be using.
We're going to be starting a show. I used to have a show with a friend named Marshall. We called A Valid Answer. And I'm a pastor, and he was an atheist, and I was a conservative, and he was a liberal. I was on the right, he was on the left, and so we had all kinds of discussions, and we did all that, and we stopped right in the middle of 2020 when we stopped doing the show. But now, a few years later, he is still kind of on the left. He's still kind of a leftist, everything, but he's actually no longer an atheist. So that's a win. That's a win. So Marshall, if you're seeing this, I'm so happy we're not in that position. But we're going to kind of continue that.
I like that though.
Yeah, because we don't think the same. We don't have the same. And the whole purpose of this show is going to be to highlight the idea. It's called unified opposition, or opposition united, which everyone got figured out with it. But the idea is that we're still united, even though we oppose in ideology and a lot of things. We can still come together and have a discussion and talk.
Isn't that agreeing to disagree?
Yes,
that's what normal people do, right?
Yes.
I mean, normal people have a discussion, and you and Marshall, I used to watch your show, would have a discussion. Now, he's passionate about where he stands, you're passionate about where you stand, but I think when we stop talking, we are in trouble.
Yes.
So that's one of the things that we do.
As soon as you treat the other person as the enemy, you're in trouble.
Well, and you know what I think, no matter what, and I think, Scott, your grandfather, not your grandfather, your father was a mentor of mine, and I loved your dad because he was not afraid of having a conversation.
Yeah.
I love it because Charlie Garcia taught in the adult schools, and I remember when we did your father's funeral, it was one of the most spiritual things I ever saw.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine who was his principal, Bill Verheul, attended your death funeral. Did I ever tell you this? No. I don't know the story. Wow. We'll have to bring on another perspective. But Bill Verheul was in the back. And I'm not sure, at that point when Bill stood with the Lord, I do know later that I think, he accepted Christ. But he came in, he goes, I just knew, Tom, you were doing Charlie Garcia's funeral here. And Bill was my athletic director at South High when I was attending there. Oh. And so Bill said, everything that you guys said about Charlie is true. And I go, how about the part where you gave him the troubled kids because you knew Charlie could handle him? Mm-hmm. And he said, absolutely true. Charlie handled some of the most troubled disciplines, and your dad prayed for those kids every day.
Well, how often do we go to funerals and we listen like, that wasn't true about that person?
So I just thought it was unique and ironic that Bill was there and he was able to validate things.
Yeah.
But at that time, he wasn't standing on either of our sides, with his spiritual life or his public life. But he says, no, everything you said about Charlie is true, and I saw that happen in his classroom. Wow. So we're going to start off today. We're going to be talking about kids. And I'm going to throw you your first curve, Scott, here.
Okay.
I would like to bring up the guy that has the still picture of the man that created the Gentleman's Club.
Okay.
And you had a very valid point about that, because it's not a gentleman's club.
I believe it's this one here.
No, it's that's the verse. But and Scott's going to
Oh,
go.
it was a video. It was a video.
No, it wasn't. It was this one here. It was that one right there.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
And so, basically, there's a young man who is a teacher at an elementary school in South Carolina, and he wanted to help little boys with no dad at home. So he started a gentleman's club. And in that gentleman's club, it wasn't something that we think about now. It's more of I'm going to teach young men how to dress. I'm going to teach young men how to interact with men because, Scott, men are different creatures. I know our wives will talk about how we are.
As much as the world would try to say that everybody's the same.
Yes. You can put it up if you got it. Scott.
Yeah.
We need to be taught by men.
Yeah.
Men need to be taught. I love the book Wild at Heart by John Eldridge because he talks about how God made men. So here's a man that said, I want to help boys without fathers become somebody who will be effective in this world. Yeah. And he started a gentleman's club, and that doesn't mean like a adult.
What a gentleman's club should be.
Yes,
what a gentleman's club should be. How to learn to be a gentleman.
He wanted to show them how to shake hands, make eye contact. Men communicate so much differently than women. We communicate with a handshake. I remember when I shook my son-in-law's hand the first time when he took my daughter's.
I hate it when I miss. We're going like that, and we go to handshake, and then we miss. I missed it. Yeah. Like, oh no, I really wanted it to be a good handshake.
All the boys that took my daughters to proms and formals, I shook their hand, and we didn't say a word. But I told my wife, "Oh, they knew what I was talking about." So he wants to teach people. Even has extra jackets and ties who can't afford them. He provides them with it. And here you got a great picture of two men, and they're not. They're going across racial boundaries.
Yep.
So that means you got a heart. There's so many people out there doing this, and guess what? That picture isn't viral. Why isn't that picture viral?
Why is that making the news?
Yeah,
good news doesn't make the news.
Yes. So let's go ahead and play Bill Moore. I love to bring in people that don't see what we see the way we see it, but we're talking the same language. Yeah. Let's go and play this real quick.
One of the few people who's gone through life and never had kids. Someone has to tell me, why am I always having to defend them? I don't even like kids. But I also think it's every adult's job to protect them.
Yes.
You all been watching the documentary called Quiet on Set, the TV?
Yeah, it is.
OMG. Nickelodeon, it wasn't a studio, it was Neverland Ranch with craft services.
Michael Jackson.
Oh, yeah, Michael Jackson reference there.
That was his
scene after scene, clip after clip of the child stars of their day being subjected to obviously inappropriate, highly sexualized degradation, and quite a few pickles going through glory holes. I was grossed out and I've gone camping with John Waters.
Wow. I didn't ever saw any of the Nickelodeon shows or anything like that.
So I don't know if this documentary is the talk of your town, but it is out here because it didn't just expose a dangerous workplace. It also exposed hypocrisy.
Amen.
It must be pointed out that when the evil governor of Florida was saying the exact same thing about kids and creepy stuff at Disney that liberals now find intolerable at Nickelodeon, he was dismissed as a hick and a bigot. But why would a kids' content factory like Disney be all that different than the one at Nickelodeon? A 2014 CNN report discovered that at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for sex crimes against children, and in 2021...
They think they're vulnerable.
Yes, they do.
The execs think they're
so let's bring this down. Yeah. It's one of those things that if you don't see this and you are not bothered by it, I've got a question for you. Because they're kids. They're kids. And if you want to hear from them kids themselves, let's play our next one. Okay. And my wife will tell you this is true. She's a superintendent of public school systems.
And I'll let the viewers decide. You can listen to the children protesting their presence outside. What happened was the children in Payson, Utah, were having a walkout over the students who are in the school wearing animal costumes and allegedly identifying as furries. They claim that these so-called furries are growling and biting them at school, growling at and biting them in school. And the children, again, this is middle school, have had enough.
Yeah.
This is a clip that we have here. Hold on a second. I'll get you who it's from. I think it's Life is Driving posted this. Adam Bartholomew on X. Take a listen to these kids.
Kids. Not the animals.
They're doing that.
The furries were attacking you guys in class, is that right?
Yeah, they bite kids. They bite people. They will bite ankles. The principal doesn't make them get in trouble. Yeah. All the principal says is just
Wow.
And how else do they attack you guys?
They either bite us, they scratch us, they bark at us.
Wow. These are actually acting with furries?
Yeah.
Go near them within like 10
Check this out. So my wife said that in some schools they'll have to put litter boxes in the bathrooms. So Scott and I, we prescribe, and you guys know it, 511 Media Group. We prescribe to the verse 1 Thessalonians 5:11. We know the good work that you're doing, and we want to promote those things. So we always want to show you what we believe is going out there that is good for our audience to hear, but we also want to bring in Scripture. And there's a verse, Scott, that I think you and I agree with, and it's over in Proverbs 22:6. It says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow old, they will not depart from it. So if you're training up kids in a way they should not go and just saying, oh, they'll grow out of this,
Yeah.
we don't see them growing out of this.
You see it on there, train up a child in the way they should go. That's an active, that's an action.
Yes.
You're doing something. Inaction. Let them be however they are.
Yeah.
That's inaction.
Yes.
You're not training. You're not doing anything. They're children. They need to be told what the world really is.
Well, they need training because they don't come out fully equipped. They don't. You got three. You got two boys, great boys, Gabe and Joshua. They come in here and they do it, and that's what you're here today.
That's why we're struggling through everything. My son Gabe is running this show right now, and he had to be somewhere else this morning, so I'm stumbling through it.
And Serena, and none of them are the same, right?
No.
And you and Jennifer have learned how to work with their personalities.
Yeah, and when they were younger, the different personalities.
Yes, and so when you see a trait that's not behooving them when they grow older, you try to correct it younger. So we're out there, you got Nickelodeon and Disney, a bunch of adults taking advantage of kids and introducing them to sexualization, and then you're broadcasting that show into the minds of other kids. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you need to check what your belief system is, because we want a society of people. Now, we don't all have to agree. I mean, I'm not telling you have to agree with Scott and I. We've got a faith system that we can defend, and I love to tell people about it because I do believe it works. I believe Christianity works in a day that needs Christ. Yeah. If you look out there, so you even we're supposed, as Bill Maher said in that video, we're supposed to, as adults, protect kids.
Yeah.
But when you see an organization like Disney, and I wonder, Scott, if Walt Disney would roll over in his grave if he saw what was
he was an actual American family man.
Yes.
Like his whole Disneyland was a whole thing of Americana, and what it was, and believing, and I don't just mean that as nationalism or go America. I believe it in the idea that there was a better place, that America was trying to be a better place to draw people from the rest of the world. Say you can come to a better place and you can be.
And guess what? They want to come because now they're coming willingly.
Yeah. They still want to come. More people want in than want out.
But then when they get here, Scott, they want to change us to be like them. You just fled where you're at, right?
Texas is having that problem with all the people from California, right? Because everyone's free in California, then they go to Texas. It's like, let's vote like we did in California.
I love it when you talk to people who have come from another country. You talk to Cubans who have come from that have made it into Florida or
Yeah.
the country legally. And I think we have a clip that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. They made it in here legally, and they're like, "Hey, you don't know what it's like
Yeah.
where I came from. Why do you want that here?"
Yeah.
So today on just a couple of days ago, the Morning Joe crew, and I like that because I like Morning Joe. I like the Covenant Coffee. I love what they do.
Is that the one?
No, not yet. And they're calling out the pro-Palestinian Columbia protests. Now, what we're seeing out there across college campuses are people that are out there saying we need to, and we can talk about Gaza. You had an interesting idea today. Share what you read in Kings today.
Oh, yes. So going through the daily audio Bible, in Judges chapter 6, talking about Gideon. And in the first 3 scriptures, it's talking about how the Midianites, that God, had the Midianites go ahead and kind of persecute the Israelites. And it said that the Midianites were attacking the Israelites and all their farms all the way to Gaza. And it's like, okay, so Judges is how many thousands of years old, and it's talking about the children of Israel living in Gaza.
Yeah, and so you've got protests out there, and they're talking about the treatment of people in Gaza. But the thing that everybody wants to forget was who started this on October 6th.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they're talking about that it's been going back and forth.
Yes, I do.
But it's really Israel has no winning move.
They don't.
Israel has no winning move.
And so basically, these pro-Palestinian protests, as the Morning Joe crew said, they called them out and said, anti-Israel is a misnomer because it's really anti-Jew. They're coming out, when you say Israel, you're really saying I'm against the Jewish people.
Yeah.
And so you have to put that in a category. So that is. And the terminology for Zionism is derived from a word called Zion. We know about Zion. Yep. It's a hill in Jerusalem where it symbolizes the Jewish nation. And throughout Eastern Europe in the late 19th century, it was numerously grassroots groups promoted the national resettlement of the Jews in their homeland, which you just talked about in Kings. And so that's where we go with the terminology. So the Wall Street Journal, they basically said anti-Zionism is deadlier than anti-Semitism.
Wow.
And so everybody wants to play with words to say it's not the same.
Yeah.
It is the same. I was really, because I like to follow some bills. There was a bill, it was HR 3515.
I think I'm going to put up.
Yeah, and I was, this is a bill, and it's talking about making anti-Semitism, which is anti-Zionism, a hate crime. And that bill has stalled. And I looked it up, and it's sponsored by the Republican in Tennessee, which thank you guys for doing that. But on January 2nd, 2023, it stalled. And I'm like, why would that be stall? So basically, you don't have enough votes, so enough people don't think it's wrong to attack a people group. Now, what do we hear about it all the time? We got to use the right pronouns, otherwise we're attacking the people group, right?
Yeah.
And we're being disrespectful for them. And so
they don't have, it's kind of a double standard.
Yeah. So this is a picture of the Zionists don't deserve to live. That's their chant in Columbia. And this is the leader. This is the Columbian student that's out there. And it's Kamani James. So they've actually got some pretty interesting stuff out there. It's this one, Scott. And it's
gotcha.
And so that person has a very interesting video out there. Let's put a face to it.
Yeah.
She's not, I mean, he, she, there, that's her pronouns, but this person, I hope that's I don't want to disrespect them, but I'm really not sure. And I'm not buying into ideology.
Right.
So this person said,
as we're not familiar with the names, so we don't know if that's typically a male or female name, so we're not trying to be.
Yeah, I'm not being disrespectful, but this person said Zionists don't deserve to live. Now,
Tom Williams, welcome to my live free or die state. Actually, I am a Chinese immigrant who survived communism. And under Mao, 40 million people were starving to death after he sold communism to them. And 20 million people died, murdered during his Cultural Revolution. So my question to you, David, is that can you guarantee me, a gun owner tonight, our government in the U.S., in D.C., will never become a tyrannical government? Can you guarantee that to me?
There's no way I can ever guarantee that any government will not be tyrannical.
Well, then the debate on gun control is over because I will never give up my guns. Never. And you should go to China to see how gun control works for dictatorship of CCP.